Okay, final video on language and martial arts. So, we're talking about the differences in martial arts related to uses of words and fight versus other aspects of martial arts that make people martial artists. And we're making the distinction between getting in the ring and banging it out and learning how to maim and kill somebody. Okay? Anyway, with that being said, if you think about all the different other things, for example, forms. What are forms, okay? Forms were practiced two person or one person, okay? Forms are really just that. They are a way to get muscle memory and to memorize the text, okay? So let's use ancient India as an example. It's a good example. In ancient times, in order to learn the Vedic texts, Sanskrit is a very complex language, and a lot of the culture was oral. So each syllable of the text accompanied a particular head movement, okay? And in that way, you trained your body to memorize the text, but also the text became part of your body, okay? What is a form? A form is a textbook, okay? When you're learning a kata, you're not learning that kata necessarily so that you can apply it and it's in the form. People do some very creative things with kata, okay? You see these guys in karate nowadays and they're showing you these things they developed that they say came from the original form, with points that they can hit and hidden techniques. That's very creative. I'm sure a lot of people who have practiced the forms over many moons have in fact put those, done those things and understand them, but that's not the purpose of forms, okay? You can't teach an art if you don't have the rudimentary building blocks of the art. Where do you start? I want to learn karate today. Where do we start? Okay? Your forms are the textbook. Your body becomes the textbook, okay? You understand the forms. There are certain things in the forms that you want to get through your muscle memory, okay? Certain principles that are representative in the forms, you have them. They can be passed down, okay? You can take something like the Sanshin in the Bujinkan, which is basically 5 of the most basic forms you've ever could see. You could spend a lifetime on one of those forms, okay? On one of them, taking all the nuances and all the things that are enlivened about the 9 schools and movement and all these concepts, okay? So that's really what your forms are for. They can be one person or two person. When you actually, it's a paradoxical thing, but you get more combinations, okay, when you use two people, because now you can see more effects and it gives you even more understanding in certain respects than if you do them solo, which you would think would give you a little bit more leeway on what the forms could possibly be. But regardless, that's what your forms are, okay? So when you see people pick up sticks and things and they go and they do these, that's not how you use a weapon, okay? You're teaching certain things about dexterity that people will need when they have to pick up the weapon and use it. And what is the primary dexterity with any weapon? It's being able to move your body as you're working with the weapon, okay? That's really what makes somebody able to use a weapon, okay? So, another one, forms. Very important to understand that. So, whenever you hear any sort of a martial arts term or word, look at it carefully. Don't just look at a literal meaning. Try to understand why things are the way that they are. And look deeper than just what everybody thinks. Because if you look long enough, the historical long view, you might get a very different understanding. And that we have a good understanding of that when we start to look at some of these different systems. Like, for example, we know that whenever you talk about willow systems in Japanese, Yanagi-ryu, and you're talking about this capacity to yield. Okay? We understand that very well. All right? We even understand that there are other aspects of jujutsu, torete. For example, I forget the literal translation, where it's more about grasping. Okay? Grasping. So China is an art that, a Chinese art where you're grasping. Okay? It's more about getting the hold, finding the right position to hold, okay, as opposed to other aspects, which are the conceptual understanding of how to move the person's weight to where you want it to be by controlling your own weight, okay? So all these things have meanings, and they should be looked at carefully and not just assumed. And you will find that this is with all these words that we use, that we take for granted. Okay, what's a court of law? Okay, what's a tennis court? Okay, you got a referee in a tennis court, right? You've got a referee in a court of law. We call them a judge, right? Okay, what's a birth? Okay, when you're given birth to, you come out of water, right? Out of the belly of the mother is water. Okay, why does a ship take a berth on the sea? Okay, see what I'm getting at here? If you understand these things, we're going to go into one more concept before we end this, and that is you understanding the omote and ura. The omote is the superficial, the obvious. The ura is that which is hidden. Okay, the occult aspects, that which is not seen by most. And words have both of those aspects. And that's what I'm trying to tell you, because all these martial arts, many of them have incorporated hidden aspects, and we all think that hidden aspect has to do with the technique. Okay? No. If you want to understand how dangerous techniques can be, you have to study anatomy, and you have to understand through practice what you're doing. But if you want to understand that which is hidden, you have to understand what things really mean. Okay, Chief? All right. Listen.